Oh, here we go.
Let's fucking go.
Turn the narc off.
Yo, it's the setup.
All right, I got it.
All right, boys.
All right.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go.
It's great to see y'all. Actually, it's really cool to see your faces.
Yeah, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I've never actually seen anyone
Yeah.
besides Julian on Facebook.
Edgar, what's your name? Oh, Ed. Yeah. What's up?
Yo, what up?
What's up, Ed?
All right. Cool. I see all you guys for the first time.
Yeah, pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, man.
Oh, dude, it's popping in here.
That's popping. Loving it, man.
I'm recording.
Oh, yeah, man.
Definitely could have squeezed one
See, it's
more
gonna be
theme
like-
song.
So you guys all know each other, yeah? And we're gonna say, now this is the first time we're meeting.
Virtually.
Or we have to behave ourselves.
Oh.
Ah, hello.
Hi.
Greetings.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
Thank you for coming.
Hi.
Really nice to see you all here.
Thanks for having
Likewise.
us.
All right. Likewise.
Do this. So you've all just met, have you?
Yeah, you're listening.
Essentially.
we have discussions every week, but we don't use video feed. So we all know each other, but
Okay. Yeah, it's very strange to see each other for the first time, isn't it? You get ideas in your head of what everyone's like.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
So how would you like to use this time today?
We decided on having a free flow discussion with you. A lot of us have gone through the first few sessions of your 52 sessions on SoundCloud and on your website. And I think a lot of us have just like general questions about the practice itself. And
Oh, wonderful. Oh, that sounds good.
yeah, we've all meditated for, well, all different times, but we're all very passionate about it. And
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone want to start with the first question?
yeah, let's go for it.
We
I'm gonna-
prepared a list of questions.
Julian's the
Yeah, we
question
have-
guy.
Yeah.
You guys can jump into if you have anything that you have immediately that's pressing. I guess one thing I just want to ask is sort of just how are you? I know that you took a hiatus from posting, and I've watched basically all your videos from about 2 years ago, but in between, I'm just curious as to how you are.
Are you talking about posting on YouTube?
Yeah, I don't follow your other platforms, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, a number of in 2014 and 2015, I recorded one particular class I was teaching, all the classes for the year. So over 100 classes were recorded. So that's what you saw there. That time after that, I've been focusing more on doing the recordings for the 52 mindfulness trainings,
Okay.
as well producing books, and as you may have seen, building the structure for a website
Yes.
that has detailed instruction, and also I'm looking at video instruction as well with that. So been very busy in behind the scene things with that.
Okay,
So that's why I stopped posting to YouTube.
that makes sense.
Busy doing other things.
Your website is so helpful, especially the Q&A section. It doesn't leave too much to ask, to be honest. But I think we can come up with some good dialogue today.
Okay.
So one of the first things that we wanted to inquire about was the integration of jhanas, because a lot of the discussions that we have are related to concentration, and we know specific teachers and specific teachings recommend the establishing of axis concentration and then moving through the jhanas and then beginning vipassana. Like they prioritize or emphasize the necessity of jhana, and we're wondering what your take on that approach is and whether it ties into the MIDL structure.
Okay. MIDL is formless, which means you can take many different paths for the practice. MIDL isn't concerned with a meditation object. What it's concerned with is observing your relationship towards whatever you're experiencing now. So when you're practicing the MIDL path, you can develop jhana first if you want, or you can just develop up to access concentration, or you can just focus on developing momentary concentration. So you can actually take different paths, and different people have different tendencies. The reason why I don't focus on jhana within the teaching is because I'm teaching how to do the meditation practice within daily life. So how do you practice Satipatthana Vipassana while you're with a family, raising children, going to a workplace? Yeah, how do you do that? Because the conditions for the development of jhana, need a withdrawal from that life, from that overstimulated life. So while jhana can be developed in everyday life, it's extremely difficult for most people, extremely difficult. So if we're going to answer that question, the role of jhana in the meditation practice, the question should be, is it the only path that we can take? Yeah. So what's the goal of the practice? What's the goal of Satipatthana Vipassana? What's its goal?
To build mindfulness on the objects of body, feeling, and mind in order to create concentration, and hopefully there's that can be applied towards phenomena to generate insight. Is that close?
But why?
To work towards non-duality?
But what does that actually mean? I'm just playing with the screen, sorry. What does that actually mean? What does it mean? Why are you doing the practice? Why are you even meditating?
To better understand the conditions that cause unnecessary suffering.
Is it to be happier?
That could be one reason for doing it. Like, we've all got different reasons. So it's important to clarify why you're meditating. So what's the goal of the practice? Okay. So for me, the problem is delusion. And so delusion is a state of not knowing. So I don't know what's going on. I notice I'm living my life in a certain way. I'm looking for a certain result, but I seem to be walking through life crashing into things. I seem to be thinking things, saying things, and doing things that are opposite to my goal, opposite to what I want. I want to be happy, but things that I'm doing seem to lead away from that. Has anyone had that feeling?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. So this is the problem. The problem is that we're literally disconnected from life. We don't actually understand life. We live our world inside our head. We're trying to think our way through the world. So then I guess the next thing to do that, how can I actually look? How can I watch? How can I develop understanding about myself and how I'm living my life so I can live a life that's more harmonious? Yeah? Less struggle, less strain, less conflict. And so that's where mindfulness was mentioned. But why mindfulness? Why are we developing mindfulness?
Is that a question for the group?
Yeah, it's a question for the group.
And I hope the group is okay with me speaking about my personal experience. And this is interesting that you asked this question, actually. It seems like an interesting coincidence for me, at least, because I've been asking myself this very question. I haven't come up with an answer yet, or at least not a very well-developed one, but so far it seems to be so that I can develop the ability to see the world as it actually is without, or to develop more wholesome conditions, I think, because something that I've been coming to note in my own personal practice is that I can't be completely without a condition. What I can do, though, is replace my present condition with a more wholesome one. By condition, I mean the way that I see the world.
Yeah, and so that's one way of approaching this as well. And that will tie back to jhana. I haven't forgotten about it, don't you worry. I've got a very methodical mind. Yeah, so what's the purpose of mindfulness? Well, the Pali word sati literally means to remember. It's memory or to remember. And it's not remembering the past. It's remembering the present. So remembering what you're experiencing now. Yeah. So the function of mindfulness is that the ability of awareness to be aware of awareness with the purpose of remembering the present experience. Now, when we're talking about the problem in life is that we can live our life in a way that goes against this. What we're talking about is literally the same as we forget what we're doing in meditation. Has anyone ever forgotten what they're doing while they're meditating? Yeah, a lot of nodding heads. Wonderful, this is good. That's exactly what's meant to happen. The same as we forget what we're doing when we're meditating, we're also constantly forgetting what we're doing in everyday life. When mindfulness isn't present, our mind fills the gap with habit, mental habit. Yeah? So when you're being mindful, you're remembering in meditation, you're remembering your meditation object, and then really attentive to it. And then suddenly you find you've been off thinking about what you're going to have for lunch tomorrow. Yeah? So literally what's happened is when the mindfulness is weakened, your mind has produced habit to fill that gap. It doesn't like gaps. It's filled that gap with habit. And when we fall into this habit, we literally are in a state of not knowing. Yeah? That not knowing means we just react. We act habitually. It means I start reacting in life how I always have acted. Yeah? You can see this quite clearly. You're driving a car down the road, then suddenly you realize you've just gone half a block and you had no memory of actually driving it. Has anyone ever done that? It's quite scary.
Many times.
Fantastic. So you know that we've already got autonomous cars, that we've had autonomous cars for years because most people are not driving their cars. Habit is. Yeah? So this is the problem as meditators. What we want to do is observe ourselves, but we find that we keep forgetting ourselves. Yeah, so that comes back to your mindfulness. If you cultivate mindfulness, you cultivate the ability to notice whenever you have forgotten and the ability to remember continuously what it is you're experiencing now and how you're relating to that experience, then what you're cutting through is that habit, and that habit is delusion. Yeah. So when we first come to meditation, we come in with a habitual life. That means for very short periods of time, we actually know what we're doing. We're mostly just reacting. But then as meditators, you develop gaps, don't you? Gaps of knowing. Fantastic. So this mindfulness is primary here, and it allows us to answer that question, because then we start to be able to observe, how am I living my life? Now, this is a question for the group. Where do you gain understanding of how you live your life? Where do you gain understanding about yourself? What do you need to observe? Do you need to observe your breathing? Do you need to observe a meditation object? What do you need to observe?
Your mind.
I think you need to observe your own actions, like what you're doing right now.
Yeah, so it's both, it's tied in with the mind and with your actions.
You need
But
to
what
observe
it
the
is-
mind. Oh,
Yeah, go on, please.
oh, sorry. You need to observe the mind observing the mind.
Yes, that's mindfulness, awareness of awareness. But you need to go beyond that to develop understanding about yourself. You develop understanding about yourself by looking at your relationship to what you're experiencing now. Are you attracted towards it? Are you averse towards it? Or are you, I don't really care. This is no advantage to me. Yeah, the three states of mind: attraction, aversion, and indifference. This is the ordinary mind. Yeah. And so through observing your relationship to what you're experiencing, that's where you will find yourself. Because I don't know about you, but I am accumulation of my relationship towards things throughout the whole of my life. That's what develops Stephen's personality. Stephen's personality is a whole lot of practice habits. Yeah, that's all it is.
Right.
Yeah. So if we look at Satipatthana Vipassana, what is it about? It's about observing these habitual patterns that create ourselves, through observing our relationship. And then it's about deconditioning those patterns of behavior that push away, that are defensive, that cause separation, and cultivating those patterns of behavior that are weak in us, that bring together, that unify. And that's the wholesome and the unwholesome, like that. But first, you've got to be able to see them. That's the hard bit, isn't it? Yeah.
So I have one question. One issue that I find often when using this approach is the inherent dualistic perspective that's created by the distinction between me being aversive towards an object, but I don't tend to find any selection or particular point that I can call myself. So it's sort of like the way I relate to something. Sometimes I get caught up in, well, I don't notice, I can't find a center from which that aversion is happening.
Good. Good.
Yeah.
Because there isn't one.
Yeah.
Because if you look at it, what we're talking about is the habitual mind. Literally, we practice ourselves every day. You're practicing yourself right now, aren't you? Yeah. So you're practicing yourself, and those patterns of behavior, the attraction and aversion, are autonomous. They're happening by themselves. You are not doing them. They happen by themselves. Just the same as about 99% of my thinking is autonomous. It's automatic. I'm not doing it. My mind's thinking. I'm not thinking. The only time I think is like, oh, I have a clock. How will I change these batteries? Oh, yeah, okay, like that. And I never think about it again for the rest of my life. But the other churning thinking is fear. When your mind is scared, it will think. When your mind is safe, it will stop thinking. The same as attraction and aversion. When your mind is scared, it will feel attracted to some things and averse towards others. When your mind feels safe, that survival part of your mind, attraction and aversion cease, and so does the thinking. We don't have to make it happen. We just have to find that safety. And the safety is found through developing understanding, through wisdom, because the mind's confused. Yeah, good. Yeah, simple as that.
Okay. I have a
Yeah.
question as well, Stephen.
Yeah, sure.
So, I noticed the aversion or desire or indifference in my action. What then? You know, I'm
Good question. That's a wonderful
question.
question. In MIDL, what we do is we develop 3 different pillars. How many?
3.
3. Well done. You guys are very paying really good attention. All that
I just learned that
jhana,
today,
all the
actually.
jhana practice is helpful. Yeah, 3. What we do is we develop first flexible attention. Flexible attention. You need flexible attention. And this, I haven't forgotten the jhana question, but this ties back to jhana. Flexible attention is the ability to self-observe. Not to absorb into a meditation object, but to observe your own relationship towards what you're experiencing now. And it contains 4 things. Anyone want to guess what they are? Curiosity or investigation. I prefer curiosity. It's that questioning mind. It's like, what is this? It's kind of like if you're watching a program or you're listening to something and it's like, wow, this is really important. I really have to pay attention. So it's that feeling of really wanting to pay attention.
It says, remember your ABCs. Always be curious.
Is there like an opposite side to that? Like, rather than like I really got to pay attention, like I don't care, whatever. It's just there. I'll just tune it out.
Very much so. Yes, we can do that. But we need curiosity. Curiosity stimulates vidika vichara, applied and sustained attention. Yeah?
Okay.
Curiosity brings your awareness again and again and again to the experience. Yeah? It's part of that function. You have to actually want to look, want to pay attention. So it has to do with intention, creating the intention for this period of time. I am going to pay attention to what's going on. To that other question about the not paying attention, we have to be very careful in meditation because, as I was speaking before, our mind is highly habitual. And so if you practice meditation in exactly the same way every single day, it will become habitual and it will be just like driving the car. You'll get the same set of experiences going along in the same path, but you'll stop looking. You'll stop seeing. So no understanding will develop. The mind can habituate absolutely anything.
Okay, I actually was wondering about that because last time we met, you said that you need to change up your meditation object regularly so that your mind doesn't become habituated to it. And I was wondering if you're doing like open awareness meditation where your object keeps changing or you don't really have an object. Do you need to change that up as well? Does your mind become habituated to open awareness meditation as well?
Yes, it can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The
Okay,
mind,
so in that case, would you switch to meditating with an object for a while?
somebody who does open awareness might find it very difficult to focus in on one thing.
Yeah.
So we have to be very careful. This is the flexible attention. With flexible attention, we can focus to one point. We can go to in the body, or we can open out to everything. We can be receptive, or we can actively go towards. If you wanted to practice open awareness, what I would do is I would change the way you structure your attention. So can you be very narrow in attention yet very open? Does it always have to be awareness out? Can you practice open awareness, but by bringing awareness and anchoring it within your body and allowing everything to come into your body?
So would that be then considered meditating with an object? If your body is the sort of focus?
Yeah. For developing what we're talking about here, if we haven't got an object, then we're not going to develop the wisdom. Because what we're talking about here, we can be open to sounds and sensations and thoughts and memories, allow everything to come and go. But what understanding do you develop about your relationship towards that experience?
Aversion and desire arise as well, like in relation to all these other things that are arising.
Yeah.
They're part of like the stream of phenomena. Like something will arise, and then immediately after it, like a sense of aversion,
Yeah.
and then a thought, and then a memory, and so on.
But it comes back to the question that was just asked: what do you do with that?
I don't know. That's why I said it was a great question.
It is a good question. These are good, and there's no right or wrong answer. But what we're doing is just teasing out what's happening.
I figured if you were aware that you were aware of it, i.e., you're mindful of it, then you're deconditioning it. But
It doesn't automatically, being mindful of it doesn't decondition it.
Okay.
And you'll see this you'll see this mindfulness is just remembering. You're just aware of being aware, but it doesn't necessarily change that relationship.
Okay.
Especially since we keep forgetting and then we fall back into the habit again and the habit's practicing itself. Because the thing is, as soon as I get up from my meditation cushion and I walk out here, and then the family is being noisy and fighting, and I go out on the road and I'm in the traffic, and then, all these real life things are happening, all of that falls apart.
Mm-hmm.
So the question, what's happening there? So the flexible attention is made up of curiosity, mindfulness, momentary concentration, not fixed, momentary, and awareness. When you have those four things there present, you can self-observe. Any one of them are gone and you can't self-observe. It will collapse. Yeah. And I'm not saying open awareness is bad. Open awareness is good. But we just have to be very careful that we're observing the right things. We're observing our relationship towards what's being experienced rather than the experience itself, in terms of MIDL anyway. Yeah.
Okay, so back to Nick's question then, when you observe your relationship to it, then what do you do with it?
Yes.
To decondition it.
So that's the first pillar is flexible attention. The second pillar is softening. And softening is the ability to soften, relax, both physically and mentally, your relationship towards what you're experiencing. So what happens is our body naturally reflects our mind. However our body feels, because our body is a sense door that reflects touch, so it reflects the touch of the world. But our body also reflects the touch of the mind. So whatever my state of mind is, I will actually experience that in my body. Yeah. So if mentally scared, we'll feel fear in the body. If I'm longing for something, I'll feel the longing in my body, sad, happy, joyful. When you're experiencing rapture, it's still a reflection of your mind in your body. Yeah. So the body reflects the mind. So when these sensations come up in our body, what we do is we have a relationship towards them. I either don't like it, I like it, or I don't care. Yeah. So when you notice that relationship, what you do is you learn the skill of softening. And the skill of softening is a mental and physical abandonment. So it looks like this. And when we soften, literally what we do is we shut down the mind. And we're not doing it through trying to remove the experience. And we're not doing it to try to to fight against it or trying to avoid it. What we're doing is we're relaxing, or radically and deeply relaxing our relationship towards what we're experiencing. And it's that deep relaxation against an experience that causes the deconditioning. And if we decide to come together for another session, get me to explain just Vedana to you and how softening applies to that and how the mind uses Vedana. Do you all understand what I mean by Vedana? Feeling tone?
Feeling tone, right?
Yeah,
We had a discussion about Vedana at one point. I don't know if everybody here was at that discussion. But...
Good. So I'll just share my experience of that with you, but not for today. We won't go there because we're still on the subject of jhana, believe it or not. The third pillar is stillness. Stillness is awareness that is disentangled from sensory experience. Stillness is different to jhana. With stillness, we are still aware of the six sense fields, but awareness no longer engages with the six sense fields. So it's pure awareness that everything is coming into it, but there is no reactivity within stillness. Yeah. So you develop those three pillars. Now, I'd like to tie this back to jhana for you, and we can just finish that up, and it might open other questions. Okay. So when you're developing jhana, do you develop concentration?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, well done. And what is concentration?
One-pointedness of mind.
But really, what is it? More than one-pointedness of mind.
It's like a
Continuous
stilling.
awareness.
Yeah, what is it that concentrates?
Awareness.
Awareness, yeah. Concentration is the bringing of awareness to one point, or the center of awareness to one point. It's the awareness that is concentrated. So as awareness becomes concentrated, it changes how awareness normally is, which is dispersed between the six senses. Yeah. So awareness is rapidly moving between the six senses, or aware of the six sense fields. Yeah. So when you concentrate, what you're doing is you're bringing awareness to one point. Yeah. And as you do that, you start to calm your experience of those other sense fields. Yeah. So if we have a meditation object and we're developing concentration on that meditation object, first it starts off physical, then it becomes a mental object, yeah, with the nimitta. But what we're doing is we're developing that awareness to one point and one object. Now, as the concentration develops, what happens to the five hindrances in your mind?
They leave.
They leave. How do they leave?
It's like you ignore them for long enough, they settle down.
They stop arising.
They stop arising because one of the functions of concentration is to suppress the five hindrances. So the concentration suppresses them from the mind. What else does concentration suppress?
The sense doors?
Yeah, your sense doors. Concentration also suppresses your experience of your sense doors. So if you become concentrated enough on one thing, your sense doors will gradually shut down until finally the mind sense door will also start to shut down. Yeah? You literally won't hear, you won't feel your body. You won't smell, you won't taste, you can't even see. Yeah? So all the sense doors shut down. Wonderful. So this is a function of concentration past a certain point. Okay. If you want to develop understanding of yourself, where will you find yourself?
In the relationship.
Yeah, and where will this relationship be found?
In aversion and attraction.
And where is aversion and attraction found towards?
In your
In the
mind.
mind.
where is it found towards?
But where do you find it? Where do you find yourself?
Arising within the sixth, the mind sense door, like the
Yes.
thought patterns.
Yes. In your experience of your six senses. That's where you arise. You arise in your relationship towards your sense doors. Yeah?
Okay.
In your relationship towards sights and sounds and smells and tastes and sensations in your body and thoughts and memories, judgments, views. So you find yourself in your relationship to your senses. Now, what's shutting down with the development of concentration?
Your
Your
sense
sense
doors.
doors.
Your sense doors. Now we've got a problem, because once concentration is being developed past a certain point, you can no longer develop understanding of yourself. There's the problem. Because all the habitual tendencies of your mind are being suppressed temporarily. We have a problem. Now, I'm not saying you can't do jhana practice, because you can. Yeah. But what I'm doing is I'm just showing you there's a point in the level of concentration where the sense doors will shut down. Yeah. And so in that, you will no longer be able to observe your mind. You won't be able to observe it, your mind, your heart, because they're shut down, they're suppressed. So the question is always, how much concentration do you develop? Do you need to develop insight if insight is your goal? And so different teachers in different traditions signify a different level of development of concentration. Because the wisdom is always found within our relationship towards the six sense fields. Yeah. So in the question of jhana, well, you can do either. If you want to develop concentration, take the nimitta, develop jhana, and master jhana, say up to the fourth jhana, you can do that. What you do is you master up to the fourth jhana, so you can go in and out of the jhanas at will, yeah? And then when your awareness emerges from the fourth jhana, what you do is you need to intentionally turn the awareness towards itself and start observing the mental factors when they re-arise within the mind. And notice the sense doors when they re-arise. And notice your relationship towards them. Of course, you're carrying the equanimity that was developed from the fourth jhana, so you don't have to worry about attraction or aversion at that time. But you need to observe the mental factors as they arise at that point. Yeah? And the sense doors arising. Yeah.
Is that when when you observe them with that concentrated awareness, that like fourth jhana, is that when you have the dispassion towards these things that would create aversion or craving?
That's equanimity. In the fourth jhana, you've cultivated equanimity, but you can't observe the mind and you can't observe the sense doors. But when the mind emerges from the jhana, yeah, from the absorption, then what you do is that's when you practice Satipatthana Vipassana. At that point there, then you start to observe the re-arising of the mental factors and the re-arising of the sense fields from the basis of the equanimity. And your task then is to mature that equanimity. Yeah, that equanimity needs to reach maturity, but you're developing the wisdom for observing that.
And
yes,
softening into into those relationships as well, or
not doing it this way, because when you're coming out of jhana, the mind is always, equanimity is already the state of mind.
okay,
Because of the fourth jhana.
so
there's
softening
no
is not necessary.
at this time.
Okay, I
They're
see.
still suppressed, like they're being suppressed through the strength of concentration.
Yeah.
When you get up and you wander into everyday life, the jhana factors will completely collapse. And then what will happen is the mind will come rushing back. And then all the habits that were there will still be there.
Oh,
They will
okay.
still be there. They won't be removed. They were suppressed. They weren't deconditioned. Yeah, but you're right about the softening. But at this point, we don't. The next way of doing it is to develop up to access concentration. So just when the nimitta arises, but we don't develop the nimitta jhana. Yeah? From the level of access concentration, again, we have suppressed the sense doors, but we haven't completely suppressed the mind, but we have suppressed the 5 hindrances within the mind. But in order to develop understanding from that point, you actually have to allow the hindrances to re-arise within your mind. So you take the mindfulness and the concentration at that point, and you just start observing the arising and passing of phenomena as it comes. Yeah. But what you do is you focus on the development of Khanika Samadhi now, not fixed, momentary concentration, not fixed concentration. Yeah. Because you need to go to momentary concentration because you will need to allow the mind or the functions of the mind to re-arise. So it's a way of temporarily suppressing them so you can get clarity of awareness. Yeah. But at some stage, you have to allow everything to come back if you want to develop understanding. Yeah. And so this can go more towards that open awareness model from there. We could do that as well. Yeah. If you want to start practicing Satipatthana Vipassana earlier, what you do is you don't develop concentration up to access concentration level. What you do is you just develop concentration just enough that the hindrances of mind start to settle. Yeah. And then from there, you start observing mind body. We observe whatever is dominant to us at that time. So you change your concentration type at that point. An advanced Satipatthana practitioner doesn't develop any concentration in the beginning at all. What happens is they make the 5 hindrances to meditation their meditation object. And when you make the 5 hindrances to meditation your meditation object, then they change from being the 5 hindrances to meditation to being the 5 characteristics of distraction. And as Jessica was referring to, you notice your relationship within those hindrances and you soften, relax that relationship. Yeah. So that's pure vipassana without any suppression whatsoever. Yeah. So they're the different levels. Can you see those different levels? So what level of concentration you want to develop will change the way that you do the practice, but it's all the same practice.
Okay.
Right.
That sort of ties into a question that came up yesterday during our meditation workshop, which was Josine and I were having, is Josine here right now?
I don't
by
think
the way?
so.
Oh, that's too bad. Okay. Yeah, Josine and I were having a conversation about Vipassana practice and how like we were both finding it to be like a bit of a grind. And we didn't have like joy in our meditation practices. And it was just very hard. And like the sensations that we were sitting through just sucked. And like we were still sitting through them, you know, as you're supposed to, and trying to be equanimous towards them and everything. But Josine, after like months of grinding away in this way, like he finally decided to drop that practice for a while and go back to doing shamatha practice, and he's much happy. He seems much happier with his practice now, and I'm starting to experience kind of the same like difficulty that he was, and I'm wondering, do I need more shamatha in my practice? Because of that, what do you think?
The samatha is much more pleasurable.
So the what? Sorry. Shamatha.
I was trained samatha.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, unification, the concentration practice is much more pleasurable.
Yes.
Basically, it's important to understand. I did a lot of traditional intensive Mahasi practice.
Insight practice.
Yeah, insight practice, Mahasi tradition. Yeah.
Mhm.
And
The noting
sorry,
with the
Noting.
noting.
Yeah.
yes, with the noting, rising and falling in the abdomen and noting. Yeah, yeah. And these intensive practices are designed to be pressure cookers. In other words, the meditation techniques are designed to bring up aversion. They're
Mhm.
designed to.
Mhm.
Because what you're doing is you're basically intentionally practicing sensory deprivation. You're not allowing yourself to experience anything. Anytime anything comes up, you won't allow yourself to participate in that.
You note it and let it go.
Yeah, and so what it is, it's designed to cultivate what are called the dukkha jnanas, or the knowledges of suffering. And so when you do these practices, what will happen is this suffering will come up. Because we're all full of suffering.
Yeah.
It will come up. You can even see it on TV shows when
Yeah.
they're deprived of sensory experience for a while. There's one in Canada called Alone, where they're in the wilderness and they have to survive by themselves. And even the best survivors, within 3 days, they're going crazy
Wow.
because they haven't got anything distracting them from themselves.
Yeah.
And this is what happens in the retreat. So the pain and suffering that you feel is that pain that comes from the mind when it's not being distracted from itself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm starting to feel that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And stuff's like coming up to the surface and it's getting really, really hard to sit with. So
very
yeah,
much so.
so like on the one hand, I see Josine, like he decided to go back to shamatha and he's loving it. And I'm like, oh, maybe I should do that. That sounds nice. But then on the other hand, I'm like, well, this is kind of the point. Like this is dukkha. And I want to awaken. I want to decondition my relationship to all of this. I want to overcome it. I don't want to run away from it. I don't know if I just like switch to shamatha practice, if I'm just running away,
You are, yeah.
running away into the bliss.
You're running away, yeah. And it can be skillful to actually use these practices to sweeten the mind if you need to. But it's
Sorry,
not.
could you repeat that? It was a little fuzzy.
It can be useful to use these practices to sweeten the mind if you need to. And that
The
includes,
shamatha practices.
yeah, and that includes metta, which is a samatha practice as well.
Okay.
Yeah, you can do that. Use it skillfully. But don't lose your goal, your sight of your goal.
Okay. So if it's literally like just too sucky to sit through and it's like becoming detrimental, then maybe head into bliss for a little while to like build up your resilience.
You can. But what I would do is I'd look at something different.
Okay.
The question is, you said it's dukkha, but what's dukkha?
Unsatisfactoriness inherent in everything.
Because does dukkha actually exist?
It's something that arises alongside all these things. Correct me if I'm wrong.
But why?
Why? Because we are identified with a self that, and we're trying to protect that self. I don't know. It's just the first thing that pops into my head.
That's basically fear.
Yes.
So dukkha doesn't exist.
Okay.
Dukkha is a relationship towards experience. Anicca, dukkha, anatta. So when you're looking at anicca, impermanence, the main characteristic of impermanence isn't change. The main characteristic of impermanence is unreliability. I cannot rely on this. That's what causes the dukkha. I do not control this. I do not own this. I cannot rely on this. It's the unreliability. If someone's in your life and you're having problems with them, it's the unreliability. It's not the change. When things are coming and going, your mind cannot rest on anything. It cannot find safety. And in intensive practice, literally everything awareness sits on, it collapses. So dukkha is unreliability. But anatta, not self, none of this is you and none of this is any of your business, including you. So the feeling of dukkha comes up as a relationship towards something. I do not like this experience. I wish it would change. I wish it would go away. It comes because you're resisting what you're experiencing. It's because you think that unpleasant experiences are bad and pleasant experiences are good. But I'll ask you something quickly about pleasantness and unpleasantness. If you go to a restaurant with a friend and have a meal, and you like something on the menu, does that mean that your friend will always like what it is that you're eating?
No.
No. Because what you like to eat, they might think is horrible and disgusting. And what they like to eat, you might think is horrible and disgusting. I may see a flower and think it's really unattractive. You might see that same flower and think it's beautiful. And this is because pleasantness and unpleasantness is not found within any experience. It is created by our own mind as a judgment. And this judgment can change at any time. So what you're experiencing as bad in your practice and unpleasant is unpleasant because your mind is resisting it. And so it's creating the unpleasant feeling. And then it reacts towards itself and it's trying to escape from itself is dukkha. When the mind stops trying to escape from itself, unpleasantness disappears and so does dukkha.
Mm-hmm.
Like this. And that's the same for pleasantness. The most skilled surgeon could not find beauty in anyone because it doesn't exist. And they also could not find repulsiveness in anyone either because it doesn't exist. It's all just a creation within our own mind. It's a habitual judgment. So, yeah. Jessica, what you're working with here is not the dukkha. What you're working with here is the I don't like, I don't want.
Yeah.
And so what you do is notice where you feel that. Notice where you feel the tightening in your body. Notice how your breathing changes. Your diaphragm starts to tighten. Your breathing moves up in your chest when you're suffering. Notice how your stress response comes on.
Yeah.
Notice how you start to hyperventilate.
Yeah.
And then soften. Yeah. If you were one of my students in one of my classes here, which you are now, I guess, yeah, I would say that your observation powers are good, but your softening, your ability to soften and be still aren't. And I would say that you need to learn how to relax. First, relax your effort in your practice so the energy doesn't build up. And next, to relax your relationship towards whatever you're experiencing.
Yeah.
Learn what it means to soften, first physically and then also mentally. Play with relaxing your eyelids, your cheeks, your jaw. Notice what it's like to relax your frontal lobes of your brain, to shut down the mind. Notice what it's like to give up all resistance. But one thing you can't do is you cannot be equanimous towards dukkha. Because equanimity is not something that you do, it's a result of what you don't do. It's not something that we do. It's a result of abandoning. We can't be equanimous. Because if I could be equanimous, that would infer that I actually had some sort of choice. in how I related towards things, and I don't. My mind is habitually relating to things. It's happening by itself. It's anatta. It's not self. I am not making a choice.
But if you're mindful, can you still can't make that choice?
No.
Okay.
You can observe the choice when you're mindful, and then you can relax the choice. And then when you relax the habitual choice, then you can actually change your relationship at that point. Yes, for sure. But mindfulness in itself is open to everything. Mindfulness can be just as open to unpleasant experience as it can to pleasant experience. But the relationship is automatic. It's like that, bang. But watch it in yourself, how quickly the relationship happens. See if you're choosing. Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I have to go. I have an appointment. But
Oh, that's
someone
wonderful.
is recording this, I think. So I'll watch the rest later.
It's so wonderful having you here.
Thank you so much, Stephen.
Thank you so much. Take care.
See you guys later.
Bye, Jess.
Hi, Jessica.
Hey Steven, I have a question. So,
So you know, we have. Is it 5 minutes? Sorry, Mike, but is it 5 minutes left?
I will just stay as long as you need me.
Okay, I just wanted to be sensitive.
It's at 3 o'clock, so I'll make it. Yeah.
How
Okay,
about
thank you.
the next 30 years of my life?
yeah, thanks for speaking with us. So I'll be really brief. So, I understand the softening into, and it's clearly very valuable. But how does that relate to insight? Like everyone says, Vipassana is like about getting insight, but you're suggesting that it's important to soften into like these dukkha and jnanas that come up. So I'm wondering how they're related.
This is going into the area of Vedana. So in the Satipatthana Sutta, the Buddha talks about Kaya, Vedana, Chitta, and Dhamma. Can anyone translate them for me?
Body, mind, and dhammas.
So
Feeling.
bodily sensations, Kaya.
Okay.
Yeah. Vedana is
Feelings.
pleasant, unpleasant feeling. So pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, or neither pleasant or unpleasant. Chitta is mind, and dhammas is very hard to translate, but I translate it as conditional process. It's the interaction between body, mind, and feeling, which is everything. Yeah, like that. So it's the dependent arising that arises, like there's arising dependent on body, mind, and feeling. Now, in answer to your question, what happens is the mind has a very basic sorting mechanism for sorting experiences. Yeah, the survival part of the mind. If an experience is dangerous, it will store the memory of that experience and attach an unpleasant feeling to that memory. If the memory is deemed as safe, it will attach a pleasant feeling to that memory and store it. And this is basic survival mechanism, so you know what's safe, what's dangerous. And if it's of no value to you, your mind will not attach any feeling to it, and that memory will fade very quickly. So all your memories have either a pleasant feeling or an unpleasant feeling present. Yeah? Now, in the practice, you can actually observe this happening. You can actually really clearly see it with Vipassana, if you're observing in the right way. Now, what happens is when your survival part of your mind, it sits behind your 5 senses. So eye, ear, nose, tongue, body. And these are the 6 sense doorways that the world comes into. Yeah. And what it does is for perception, that means to interpret, what's happening around you. What it does is it goes back into the memory banks and says, oh, where have I seen this before? Where have I experienced this before? What am I supposed to do in this situation? And then when it accesses that memory, it releases the feeling in your body. So if it releases a pleasant feeling, do you want more of it? Yeah. So it attracts you towards the experience. Yeah. If it releases an unpleasant feeling, do you want to get away from it? Yeah. So you go away. So it's a really basic system of your mind will release a pleasant feeling to attract you towards something, unpleasant to drive you away from it. How easy is that? And notice that everybody automatically said that pleasant feeling is good and unpleasant feeling is bad. Yeah. Now we have a problem here. The problem is that memories are not necessarily to be trusted. So if your mind has interpreted a certain situation in a certain way and attached a danger signal to it or a safe signal, you might find yourself attracted to that which is dangerous and repulsed by that which is safe. And the mind is rapidly changing these feelings every single day on memories. I love someone today, next day they're the most horrible person, I can't even stand their voice. The mind is changing these feelings all the time, and we have an automatic reflex reaction to the feeling. Now, if the mind, every time you react, the mind increases the feeling on the memory. So if you react with attraction, the mind will increase the pleasantness. So next time the pleasantness will be stronger and your craving for it will be stronger. If you're averse, if you try to suppress and escape from suffering, pain, unpleasantness, or if you try to fight against it, your mind, your survival mind will say, this is really dangerous. And so it will increase the unpleasant feeling on the memory. And so every time your mind accesses it by itself, autonomously, it will release a stronger feeling that will drive your behavior. Now, if we're going to look at addiction, addiction has pleasantness as a reward, unpleasantness to get away from. If your mind releases pleasantness and unpleasantness, it can suddenly control your behavior and you have no choice. You can be guided anywhere that it wants to guide you, and that's what we're dealing with. Now, the question of insight. For observing the interaction between body and mind, clearly, within the field of the six senses, we start to notice the Vedana present within that contact. We notice the feeling. We notice our relationship towards that feeling. Now, any reaction towards that feeling will strengthen it, be it suppression or be it avoidance, it will still strengthen it. So what we need to do is we need to remove that sorting mechanism. That's why we're developing wisdom. So as we observe body and mind and we notice the feeling, we notice our relationship towards it, we need to relax our desire to be attracted towards that pleasantness. And we have to relax our desire to escape from the unpleasantness. When we deeply relax against it, what happens? The mind goes, oh, this hasn't got the value that I thought it has. So when an unpleasant feeling, if you relax against it, the mind will lower the strength of the unpleasantness against that memory, and so on. So what you do is you start to decondition the feeling tone from the memories. And in doing this, you're actually developing wisdom about how mind, body, feeling work. And this is creating new memories that are then used by your survival mind to interpret every sight, sound, smell, taste, touch that you see. So as a Satipatthana Vipassana practitioner, from the way I see it, what we're doing is we're looking at deconditioning the mind. That means getting to the stage where we have a mind that is totally deconditioned. Totally deconditioned. There's no memories with any feelings. So I'm someone who doesn't have a past. Yeah. And not creating any relationships now in the present. So we no longer store painful memories because they're no value. It's the softening, relax. It's the relationship towards the feeling that our mind understands. It's not what we think, say, and do. It's the relationship behind it that causes the habitual patterns. So you can recondition the mind by teaching it to concentrate, by developing loving kindness. But reconditioning hides conditioning. Or you can decondition the mind, or decondition all defensive patterns from the mind until there is no defensiveness left within the mind. And then you notice what's weak in you in terms of wholesome qualities of loving kindness and compassion and caring and empathy and generosity and gratitude. And then you intentionally cultivate them and make them strong in you so they become your natural way of being. So it's a process of abandon, guard, cultivate, establish. Very simple like that. Yeah. Was that helpful?
Definitely.
Yes, that was helpful.
I
Thank
wish I'd
you.
been taking notes.
One thing that just comes to mind is the aspect of active recall. Is this something that you abandon and sort of just take as a sacrifice for the sake of being happier, or decondition? Like the active recall of like memories, is that just it just leaves, or is this? I'm curious on your take on that.
Yeah. First thing, remembering or the recall is part of the practice of mindfulness. You cannot develop wisdom without reflection. If I'm just saying this here now, this here now, this here now, how can I see specific conditionality? I can't see process because all I'm doing is seeing this experience and this and this and this. And also, I suddenly don't take responsibility for my past actions. So you'll have, you can go, oh yeah, I'm really present in the moment. But what I did yesterday, no, that's yesterday. That's not now. That's not happening now. It doesn't matter. I'm just here. So we can use it to not take responsibility for our past. First thing, you should totally own your past up to now, because every choice that you've made throughout your life, whether you knew you were making it or not, led to what you have to work with now. So you have to make peace with that. You have to forgive your past. That brings you to now. Then when we're meditating, when we're self-observing, we self-observe, but we observe and reflect on what just happened. Oh, I just got into an argument with my partner. Well, that wasn't a good idea. So we actively observe it, we feel it, and then we soften into it. So reflection is necessary there. As far as ordinary memory, we need memory to function in life. Memory tells me that that door leads to the next room. Yeah. Memory tells me that that's how I drive a car, or that's somebody that I know. We don't abandon memory. Instead, what you do is you notice that memories are just a thought arising within the mind right here, right now. And within itself, it holds no reality. My memory of my past is just the memory of the past. It has nothing to do with now, absolutely nothing. Yeah, it conditioned who I am now, but it does not delegate how I relate to this situation now. So it's a difference between seeing it as a thought and thinking or seeing it as a reality. Yeah, that's the difference.
So you're just
Right.
looking at that link, right? The link between your past memories and the conditioning, the in between.
Yes, there's a full link all the way through. We're talking about patterns of conditioning, but what we normally do is we normally look at our memories of the past as if they're happening right now.
Right.
And we react as if they're happening right now. I know you, you're that person that hurt me. I'm going to react to you in this way, instead of actively just seeing what's in front of you now, without that past judgment. That's the difference. We can be warned, but we don't take that as a reality. This is the deconditioned mind, like this.
You know, that's so awesome for me because there's just things that I wish, I could just like forget and all that. But it seems to be that now, you don't have to worry about forgetting anything. You can just decondition what uh, the emotions you've had associated with that.
Yeah, your memory, what happened in the past isn't a problem. The problem is the giving value to it now. It doesn't define who you are now. Your relationship to what's happening now defines who you are now. So if you're judging or relating to what's happening now through your past, then you're
That's the
not
same
choosing.
karma.
Yeah, you're not choosing. There is no
Right.
choice. Yeah, you're
Right.
just creating, the karmic patterns are just continuing. Yeah. So you can actually find freedom, regardless of what your past is.
Nice.
But you first have to observe, make peace with your past, accept it 100%. I can't change my past. It's fixed. Doesn't matter how much I argue, how much I negotiate, it's still fixed. And it's quite fuzzy too. I can't really be sure that I'm remembering right.
True.
One thing I think I want some clarity on is sort of I'm a person that values like having the mind operate at a high level since I involve myself with like technology and business and things like this.
Yeah.
One thing that arose was like, since Vedana is a structure within the mind used to store memories, so positive and unpleasant, pleasant and unpleasant are used to store the memories. If these are deconditioned, when experience is happening, if that process has been deconstructed, what's then going to allow me to function still, storing memories that are relevant if there's no condition attached to it within the mind?
Joy.
Okay.
Joy in what you do. Joy will attach a pleasant feeling to the memory, but it's not a pleasant feeling that's a dangerous one. Joy. I find joy in what I do.
Okay.
Which is very different to the relationship of people in business, high power business, which they're driving their business through stress and anxiety.
Yeah.
That will lead to suffering. But joy, find the joy in what you do. It's like I could play a game of soccer or cricket or some sport. I'm playing a sport. When I'm younger, I'm playing it for the joy of it. Then somebody notices, oh, you're very talented, Stephen. I'm going to get you in the big leagues, professional sports person. Now I'm playing for money. And playing for money, I can lose the joy. But what I'm saying is when you work, find the joy in what you do. If you find the joy, you will remember easy. Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
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 And the other thing too that we should all consider, you said about your mind speeding up for your work. Just understand this is a conditioned world. And we can do anything that we want. So I don't talk about you can't do this and you can't do that. You can do anything, absolutely anything you want. Just know that everything has consequences. You can't escape from consequences. So what that means is that you go into that workplace, you do that type of work, you speed your mind up, but just know there's consequences. It will just take a lot longer for your mind to settle down. It's just how it is. So there's trade-offs of balance. Yeah. And the question is, what are you willing to trade off for your own peace of mind? That's the question.
Excellent.
Yeah. Fantastic. I think I'll leave it just here now. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time, and we'd love to have you back, and maybe we can get into a discussion on Vedana. I think that'd be an
Yeah,
excellent
I'd
topic.
love to do that. Does the same time next week sound good?
I think that would
Yeah.
be perfect if
Yeah.
everyone's.
I would love that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
That'd
I
be
would
awesome.
Hey, let's
love
look
it.
at data. Wonderful. We'll do that.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Thanks so much.
Awesome.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much, everyone. Take care.
Thank you,
Thanks
Steven.
so much for your
Have a
time.
week, and I'll see you next week. Goodbye. Thank you.
Bye.
Take care.
Goodbye,
Bye.
Steve.
Bye.
Guys, you can all meet me in the Discord VC if you want to continue the conversation.
Yeah, yeah.